mean, people keep saying that the Conor punch is harder. First off, that is absolutely, there's no punch of the 4 that are allowed in this contest that Conor does harder than Floyd. People will argue he does because Conor's been putting people down and Floyd hasn't put anybody down in a while. That is not a secure focus group, though, because Conor's throwing them at MMA guys who spend 20% of the time on this. Floyd is throwing them at experts that have spent their entire life at rolling and bobbing and weaving and dealing with those punches. So it is absolutely not apples to apples there.
True.
Floyd hits much harder than Conor and should. Much harder. But a lot of people,
how do you justify? How would you qualify that?
A lot of people look
though?
at that and go, yeah, a lot of people, I'll get asked that question. It's like, well, guys, there's several ways to do it. First off, I base it on the fact that I know boxers. I know how hard they hit in comparison to our biggest punchers in MMA. Secondly, I've seen them on bags. I can tell, my eyes don't lie. I'm watching who's hitting a bag hard. Conor hits plenty hard. He doesn't hit anywhere close as hard as Floyd with any of the punches. A jab, a cross, a hook, or the uppercut. The only 4 techniques that are allowed in this fight. They're not even remotely close. But you'll hear these arguments made. All of this stems from, it's not just my opinion on I can have any opinion I want. I can be as passionate as about it. People that listen to this show know full well Chael Sonnen is the single worst predictor. When it comes down to a fight, I get terrible predictions, but I am very passionate on it, and I will support my beliefs with data. I will say, well, look at the history and look at what happened here.
But you're not giving any data, though. You can't say, oh, I saw Floyd hit a bag, and it was way harder than Conor's.
Well,
how do you qualify that?
Oh, most certainly I could. Absolutely I could. And I will agree with you. Like, as you just said that back to me, that does sound a little bit fugazi. I do get that. But most certainly I could.
I've
seen
much
enough
harder?
Bags
is it 5? He's 50%, 100% harder?
I know how hard. I know who hits harder than me, and I know.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
I'm going to let the argument go because
I saw him hit a bag.
I will let the argument go because you're right. I cannot, with my rhetorical skills, say, but I stand by it. But I will admit I'm going to sound like a fool if I continue down this road because you had to say I watched him on the back. But Ryan, I want to make this point to you. I want to make this final point to you. This whole thing came up because you asked me what should Floyd be saying. And I'm telling you, he should not undersell himself as a way of getting people more interested. He should continue to sell himself. But he should come out and tell the truth. And in your final analysis right there, when I asked you who was going to win, you started to break it down and go, well, Floyd, you started to break down, but you proved the point that I'm making, that he does feel those pressures. You use that exact word. He should talk about that. He should steer into it. He should say, man, I built a career. I always show up on fight night. I've largely been the underdog. I've largely had naysayers. This is the first time ever I've got everybody in the world saying not only should I win, I had better win, and I had better do it fast. And Michael A. Smith, I'm feeling that. It's got me a little bit off. It has me in a unique spot mentally because I've never been in it before. I trust that I'm going to deal with it, but make no mistake, I know what's on the line here. I think that's what he should do. He shouldn't come out and try to swerve us.
Who punches harder, you or Chuck Liddell?
I gotta think Chuck Liddell. Yeah, I've seen him on the mitts. I don't give as much credence to that. I prefer a guy who can take a punch. Now, that isn't my way of swerving and go, I take a punch better than Chuck takes a punch. I just soon not find out. But to your point on that, I agree with Rocky Balboa. It's not who can hit harder, it's who can get hit and keep coming forward. So if you want to say, I do believe Chuck hits harder than me, I just don't think that's any kind of a concession.
He was just on TMZ, right?
Yeah, Chuck was on TMZ, and they actually asked him about me.
Yeah?
Yeah, they said, are you fighting Chael? And Chuck was a seemingly nice guy. I don't know Chuck. I was with him one time in my life, and I was with Matt Lindland. Him and Matt are buddies. I was with Matt having breakfast. Chuck was with his son having breakfast. Matt and Chuck talked. Matt never introduced me. So I just sat there.
I never introduced yourself?
No, I never once stood up and shook his hand. Nothing. And then even when Chuck got up and left, he never acknowledged me. He was like, nice to meet you, by the way. I just sat there. So I don't actually know, but he is a seemingly nice guy. He came out in an interview, and he had said, and this always pisses me off just because it's annoying, man. Do you want to fight or not? It's as simple as that, because if you do, I'm your guy.
Has he been asked?
He's been asked, and well, he did the asking. He's the one that called Scott Coker and wanted to go to lunch. That's reported. I'm not speaking to you on inside information. That was also reported on TMZ, but a couple of months ago. He's then been in the gym. He went over to Thailand for a training camp. He's in Jay Glazer's gym every single day. He wants to fight again. So if he's coming over to Bellator and he's coming over at 205, I'm on a Legends ass whipping tour. Let's do this. So they asked him about me. They asked him about everything that I just said, and I was fine with everything he said. He really did seem fine about it. However, he said one thing, it just gets in my craw, man, and I don't like this from anybody, but especially an old schooler like Chuck, who's supposed to have the same mentality as me, which is let's fight. Forget everything. You can forget the weigh-ins if you want. Let's go fight. He says, well, Chael wants a big fight. He wants to make money. Obviously, any fight I'm in, says this about himself, this is a quote, any fight that I'm in is going to be a big fight. So that's what he's trying to do there. I hate the big money fight talk. Take the money out of it, man. The money wasn't in it when I had my first fight in 1997. It wasn't when I had my fourth fight in 1998 or my seventh fight in 2001. And one's got nothing to do with the other. I got a set contract, Chuck. Make no mistake. Would it be a big fight? Sure it would. I'll concede that. That's not why I want it. I want it because you're an easy fight. I told you to tell the truth. There's the truth. You're an easy fight. You were an easy fight for me in your prime. You're an easy fight for me today. That's why I'm going after you. And as far as my paycheck and and all of that, go, man, keep it and shove it up your ass for all I care. I want to fight you, Chuck. I want to fight you because you're a bum. In my opinion, bum. You're always a bum. In my opinion. Now, I have sour grapes about this, Ryan. I have sour grapes about my own career. I could not break in until I was 31 years old. That was too old. You knew me when I was younger. You saw me in the practice. I'm not asking you to weigh your opinion, but you saw me with world champions in the practice, sitting, reigning world champions of Pride and of UFC, multiple ones in the practice room. I burned a decade of my career because I couldn't get my opportunity. A lot of guys like me out there, but I got to raise my hand. I'm one of those guys, and I have a tremendous resentment about some of those guys that came before me who I could have whipped but was never given the opportunity. That's why I want to fight you, Chuck. It's not about the money. You're all wrong about that. Would it be a big fight? Yeah, sure it would. Do I have to be there for it? No, but I did think that it was a little bit condescending for a guy who's been hanging out at strip clubs for the last 7 years to say about a guy who just sold out Madison Square Garden less than 30 days ago that I needed him. I'll take you, Chuck. I will concede that your comeback fight, a lot of people are going to I'll concede all of those things. I won't concede to you that I'm after the money. I'm just after you.
I like it.
But it's just the truth. I mean, I'm just telling you the truth.
What do you think? Does that happen or not? If you had to say yes or no right now,
if you would have asked me a week ago, I would tell you yes. I feel like it has lost some steam. That me versus Chuck has lost some steam. I just don't know what he's going to do. It's as simple as this: you're in the gym, you need the money, you lost your job, you've been open about that. I had this job with you, I don't have it anymore. Like to grab a paycheck and I'm getting in shape for it. But something's missing, and I don't know what it is. I don't have any inside information. I don't have lines.
Do you think does he price himself out? Because he was getting paid great when he finished. Does he expect that same level of pay now?
I think that he does. I'm guessing. I think that he probably does. You know, he was leaving with about $4 million a fight. He was not smart enough to understand that Dana was just taking care of him. Dana used to manage, to remind you, he used to manage Chuck before he owned the UFC. He was managing Chuck and Tito. He was carrying those guys along. So once he came up, he brought those guys up with him. And Chuck did a great job. He was grossly overpaid, but he did deliver. He had some huge pay-per-views. You know, him versus Tito Part 2, I don't know if you remember, that did 1 million buys. 1 million buys in paper. Oh my God, that's insane. He had big fights with Randy. He had other good, meaningful fights. He was overpaid, though, to be making that kind of money. Yeah, I do believe that he's brought that with him. It's like, Chuck, the industry has changed. Pay-per-view as a whole is not what it used to be. It goes in waves, and right now it's just not what it used to be. You are locked into some of that stuff, and there's a reason that you left, in fairness. Now, he's got a big value to him. I'm not actually bearing Chuck as much as this may sound. I was just bothered that he said I wanted him because he was a big draw. I just thought that was a little condescending to say to the guy who's never been less than a main event in a sold-out arena making pay-per-view records since 2009. I thought that was a little bit condescending, in fairness. I probably sound a little brash as I spell it out for you, but these are my internal thoughts, and now I'm making them my external thoughts. That was my reaction to that. He still has a very big value. And, you know, Ryan, contrary to popular belief, and guys never seem to understand this, a title fight, a main event, those are big fights. Those are not the biggest fights. The biggest fight you can possibly make is a grudge match, period. The second biggest fight that you can have is a comeback fight, and you only get one. I will happily concede when Chuck has his comeback fight, when and if, that is big business. I would like to align myself. There is some truth to that, but it's not a cash grab for me. My contract is set. It's not a cash grab, particularly if it goes on
How old is
free
Chuck?
TV. I believe he's 47. I say that because I think he has been out 7 years, and I thought he retired at 41. I could be off a year or two, one way or the other, but I'm real close.
I'll tell you, the one question is, and I don't know anything about his health status, but at that age, there's a whole bunch of extra tests that you have to take to get licensed.
That's right. I actually just went through them. The cutoff is 40 and up, and I just went through them, and there was a lot.
A battery of tests, right?
Yeah, there's a battery of tests before you get there, but even once you're right. Yeah, but he would be fine. I'm quite sure he would pass if you were saying that's something that could keep him from a license. I don't believe he'd have anything like that.
Yeah.
Do you?
Hope not. No, I hope not.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I never heard anything like that. All right, guys.